This is Ryan.
And I'm Jon.
Welcome to preview season.
Oath of the Gatewatch. Oh man.
Oh man.
It's out.
It is the entire set list for Oath of the Gatewatch. We've got it.
And I'm not sick anymore.
You're not?
No more of that. It's all smooth sailing from here. Smooth sailing into the sunset.
Yes. So, the plan for the next couple of episodes, we're going to look at each color kind of separately and go through and pick out just a few of the highlight cards that we're most excited to be playing with when this set finally does release.
Yeah, I like drafting a lot, so I will be doing the limited cards.
Sure, and I enjoy a lot of constructed applications, so I'll be kind of highlighting some of the fun kind of build-around cards I'm excited to put into a deck, whether it be for Commander or Pauper or Modern or Standard, whatever. I'll just kind of pick out things that I'm excited to build with.
It is my humble opinion that this idea is excellent. Let's get into it.
Sure. We're going to start off right away. My first pick, Eldrazi Displacer. Yeah. Now, you've heard me say before how much I love, being able to flicker things and reuse your enter the battlefield abilities, and this guy can do that for you every turn or multiple times a turn if you have the mana for it. So I look forward to pairing Eldrazi Displacer up with the new Linvala. I call this combination the catch-up factory. Yeah. Are you behind on life? Catch up. Are you behind on creatures? Catch back up. Either way, you can just keep flickering her in and out every turn, and you'll never fall behind on life or dudes. So the fact that Eldrazi Displacer can also target your opponent's creatures means that you can induce all sorts of headaches for them too.
Sure.
Are they trying to stick an aura on somebody? Bye-bye. Are they trying to attack with something that you can't really block? Bye-bye. Are they able to block your creatures? Bye-bye. It doesn't matter what they're trying to do. You just throw a monkey wrench in their whole game plan. So there's so much you can do with this card. I'm really excited to play with it in just about every format that I can.
So when we spoiled this card kind of last week or the week before or whenever we did it, man, we did so many episodes, I don't remember when we spoiled it. But did you mention the infinite life, infinite death combo?
Yeah, with Brood Monitor, I think, right?
Yeah, Brood Monitor and, oh man, what's the black creature?
Zulaport Cutthroat?
Zulaport Cutthroat, yeah. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we cap that off because it's a 3-card combo, which are always kind of worse than they look on paper. But man,
if you're going to try that, now's the time. You got great mana fixing. You've got lots of ways to get those 3 colors together and make that happen.
It's sweet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Next card I'm interested in. Stonehaven Outfitter.
Sure.
So it's interesting. This guy says equipped creatures you control get +1/+1, and not other equipped creatures. So he will get his own buff. If you just give him something, he becomes a 3/3 for 2, really, which is pretty great. Add in Relic Seeker from Origins, and now you're kind of brewing something.
I forgot all about that card. I forgot that card existed. The card seems really, really good.
Yeah, so you just got to find some good equipment to go and fetch. Now,
what equipment are you thinking?
So I'm excited for 2 things. You got Stoneforge Masterwork, which is good if you can generate some core or ally tokens, might fit the theme, or Sword of the Animist is my other pick, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, right.
I'm looking at Retreat to Emeria, which makes ally tokens. So maybe Sword of the Animist to repeatedly hit those landfall triggers. You can keep dropping lands in, make new tokens, things get bigger, you can equip whoever you want, they get +1/+1. Wow. You kind of start to snowball this kind of neat little
that deck seems sweet because both of those equipment kind of synergize with each other as long as you have the retreat because that seems really good.
So you could do something like that for sure. So the trick is to have enough equipment that you can suit up a few of your guys, and then you can recover from being hit with like a sweeper or a board wipe, since they'll draw you multiple cards every time they die that you get to draw something new. But the more slots you devote to the equipment in your deck, the less room you have for actual bodies to hold that equipment. So that's usually kind of the breaking point, right? How do I get enough people out here and still give them enough equipment to use? Using the retreat, you kind of get around that because it just spits out a free guy every turn if you can keep dropping the land. So I really like the kind of synergy that's built in there. So I'm really excited to build around that little combo.
Yeah, those 2 creatures both sound sweet. Like those 2 equipment, man. It's hard building decks because you have to kind of summon up cards that get overlooked. Like Relic Seeker is a pretty overlooked card. Sword of the Animist is a pretty overlooked card. But in that deck, they're insane.
Yeah. And this is one where I think looking back is going to be more helpful than looking forward. Upcoming, we've got Shadows over Innistrad. I don't really foresee a lot of great equipment coming out of that. It's not really a plane that's known for having a lot of hands-on artifacts. So
yeah, you have a Butcher's Cleaver, and that's about it.
Right. All right, so this next card I like. and John, we were just talking about this one. We were both actually pumped for this. Wall of Resurgence.
I didn't even realize that this was a card until it showed up on our little Google Doc we used to coordinate this.
Yeah.
This card doesn't even seem real.
Oh, I know, right. For 3 mana, you get your hasty 3/3.
Yeah.
You know, assuming you've got a 4th land available, you can stick those counters on. You also get the 06 Defender, which is big enough to hold back, half of the Eldrazi out there and all of the Siege Rhinos that are out there. So, but this is where it gets really good. If you can blink or bounce that wall part, then you get to put those 3+1/+1 counters down again.
Bringing us back to...
Yeah, the Displacer would be ideal to combo with this, but also Jeskai Barricade was, another great card that scoops up something. It only costs 2 mana, so you can, play the wall, play the Barricade, scoop that wall back up, play it again next turn, okay?
That rules.
Yeah, and you can stack those counters on the same land, so you can make that 3/3 into a 6/6, 9/9. It gets bigger from there. And then what I want to do is bring in some of those kind of outlast, we'll say mini lords from Khan's block, right? So these guys said every creature with a +1/+1 counter on it gets, lifelink in the case of Abzan Battle Priest, or trample or whatever. So they'll grant some ability to everyone who's got counters on it. So that would work here too, right? So maybe I'll drop in Abzan Battle Priest, get a really big lifelink land, pretty cheap. You could also splash in a bit of green, fit in Assault Formation, which then turns your Wall of Resurgence into a 6/6 Jeskai Barricade into a 4/4 for just 2 mana. I've seen people experimenting with Assault Formation already. I think Wall of Resurgence is going to give it a good push forward. Maybe it's not going to be like a tier 1 deck or anything, but you might be able to, squeak out a win at an FNM because it attacks from such a weird angle. It's really hard to be ready for all of these, 06 and 04 defenders suddenly becoming 6/6, 4/4 attackers at the drop of a hat. So I like it.
Assault Formation just keeps getting better and better, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Just as time goes on, there's just more stuff to break Assault Formation.
Yeah. All right, next card I'm excited about, General Tazri.
Okay.
So I think this one was a very clever design by Wizards for the EDH community, right? So as your commander, Tazri can bring a buddy every time you get to recast him. And you're going to be doing that a lot because in Commander, people tend to, kill your commander. You get to bring him back out, and he'll bring a new friend along every time. So that's a neat bit of pseudo kind of card advantage. Since he has the full, we'll call it Wooburg activated ability, that gives him a broad spectrum color identity. So you can run all 5 colors, right? It's not going to be a mono white deck. He's got all 5 colors in his identity.
You can run all 5 colors of allies because they're good spread across like all 5 colors.
Exactly, and you don't just have to pick ones from Oath and Battle for Zendikar, but the original Zendikar block had allies in it as well. So there's actually a really deep pool of cool creatures that you can fit in there, and being able to tutor up exactly the one that you want every time you resummon the general gives you some kind of neat things that you can do. I don't know that you really have to run all 5 colors if you don't want to, but if your mana can support it, then being able to activate his ability can also just make your team really big and kind of end you the game.
So that is actually a huge deal that it's all 5 colors because the original allies from Zendikar, the good ones are green and red, and a lot of the good ones from Battle for Zendikar are red. Like the haste one, I believe, is red. There's a double strike one, right?
Yep.
Is that one white or red?
I think that one's white.
Okay.
Or is that the first strike one? Man, well, we'll have to go back and check it out. But there's just so many great allies to pick from. Like I said, it is really a kind of a clever bit of design by Wizards that you can fit all those colors in there. Or just run it mono white if you want, because he only costs white to cast. So
Sure.
Pretty neat. All right, so this last little kind of combo, we'll call it, that I'm looking towards is Oath of Gideon, along with Call the Gatewatch. They kind of slot in together, and I think they're going to be showing up in a lot of the same decks together, so I'll just kind of cover them both as one, right? So Planeswalkers, as we've said, are really highly tuned machines. Right? Their costs, their loyalty, their abilities, each of those is a knob that gets tweaked by Wizards R&D to make sure that they're perfect for constructed play. So then something like Oath of Gideon comes along and completely changes the math on one of those categories, so now you get away with some kind of dramatic things. Things that the designers couldn't have even imagined when they created the cards originally, because they didn't know that this card was necessarily coming. So for example, just within Standard, right, if you transform Jace Vryn's Prodigy, he'll then have 6 loyalty instead of 5, which lets you activate back-to-back his -3 ability. So you can flashback a spell, next turn flashback another different spell. Ob Nixilis Reignited, he can kill creatures on back-to-back turns. And both Sarkhan Unbroken and Sorin Solemn Visitor can make back-to-back creature tokens. Sarkhan makes the dragons, Sauron makes vampires, right? So these walkers are usually designed so that you need a turn off, in between those types of activations, gives your opponent a chance to kind of catch back up. But since you can now skip that downtime, and you get to fire off, token after token, you can really put pressure on your opponent. It makes it much harder for them to find a window to get in there and catch you with your shields down, so to speak. Right? So how do you make sure that you draw all those great planeswalkers? Well, that's where you bring in Call the Gatewatch. So aside from curving great into Gideon or Sorin, this card also just fits into a white base kind of Super Friends deck really easily. Now white has historically leaned on small creatures to win their battles, but sometimes it kind of runs out of cards and things to do the longer the game goes on. But being able to search out a Planeswalker gives you something that you can activate every turn, and it kind of helps support your little creature theme in a kind of a different way. So I'm really excited to see what the pros put together. I'm sure Craig Wesco is going to have something amazing brew that takes advantage of all these kind of things and does a really great job of bringing together Planeswalkers, getting a nice bump on their loyalty as they come in, always being able to find the one that you want out of your deck thanks to the search abilities for Call of Gatewatch. Lots of cool stuff going on there.
I want you to imagine this curve. I want you to imagine turn 3, Oath of Gideon, you get 2 guys.
Yep.
Next turn, you play Sorin Solemn Visitor, and you +1.
Yeah.
And now your 2 blocker, you have 2 cards with which to defend Sorin, and Sorin now has 6 counters. And then turn 5, you ultimate Sorin. So many decks in Standard are now locked out of the game completely. They just can't beat. Even the control decks, you don't normally think of a control deck as caring that much about the Abyss, but the ones in this current Standard that have all these dragons that they're trying to just stick one and win with it, that's what they do. They win with a dragon, and they can't beat a Sorin emblem.
Yeah. Man.
I can't wait to play this card.
Like you said, it really turns a lot of that kind of number math on its head there. You get to bump up that loyalty. It's great.
It's going to be great. Alrighty, now we're going to start with the limited portion of the show. And what we're going to do with this is I'm only going to go over the commons because the rares and the uncommons, you're not as likely to see them over the course of a draft. You're going to see the commons a lot. So it's way more important for you to have kind of a grip on what commons are good and why, rather than just some chance uncommon knowing that that's good, because most of the time they're going to be good, but the commons are a little less straightforward. So we're going to start with Searing Light. Searing Light is an instant for a white, and it says destroy target attacking or blocking creature with power 2 or less. It's a pretty mediocre card on its face, but it's going to be at its best when you're attacking and blocking aggressively. That is to say, when you are able to kind of commit to combat consistently, you're just going to unlock some 2-for-1s with it. So Searing Light lets you attack into a double block that you may normally have not been able to attack into. So when they go to double block, you can remove 1 blocker. Or in a spot where an opponent probably has a combat trick, they're attacking into you with lots of open mana, you can block, and when they have to pull the trigger on their combat trick, you can respond to it while it's on the stack and cast Searing Light on the attacker. So it's definitely got its spots. It only works in really specific scenarios, but in those scenarios, it's really, really good.
That's true. And there's one other thing that I like about Searing Light here, that it only costs a single white mana. That's going to be actually good for setting up surge cards. If you happen to have any, you can use this as your combat trick. Then post-combat, you drop in the Dwar Isle Avenger or something like that. You get a nice little discount on your follow-up play, and you can really kind of shift tempo to your side of the table. That's great.
Yeah, Surge adds a lot of value to these low-costing cards. So that's kind of a cool element of this limited format. Yep. Okay, next up is Makindi Aeronaut. It's just a 1/3 flyer for 2. We usually see this kind of card in blue, but this time it's in white. It's not really an impressive card to be attacking with, but you can get in there with it at a pinch. But more importantly, it kind of staves off a lot of the premier flyers at common, at least in Battle for Zendikar. It holds off Courier Griffin, Shadow Glider, Mist Intruder, and it trades with, or it doesn't even trade, it just outright kills Eldrazi Sky Spawner. So I really like this card.
So do I. And here's the other thing I like about some of these littler, cheaper guys. Usually you wouldn't be so thrilled about having to field them, but we've got support as a mechanic in this set. So maybe you do put out the Aeronaut, and he sits there and he kind of does his job blocking for a little while, but maybe a couple turns go by and then you're finally able to drop somebody with support. Well, now your little 1/3 is a 2/4, or could be as high as like a 3/5 after a few turns, and now you got like a real threat that didn't cost you a whole lot up front, but just by being a body on the board that can start soaking up those support counters, you can kind of build your own threat as the game goes on. So I like that these guys are going to kind of hold their ground and then scale up as things go on. So
yeah, they should be good. Kor Scythemaster. Now, this is a Kor Castigator for kind of 1 more mana, and it's got text. Kor Castigator has text. I found Kor Castigator to be mostly unplayable in Battle for Zendikar Limited. It kind of gets outclassed really quickly. Yeah. It never trades up. But I'm a little higher on Kor Scythemaster. Now, I know it's a 3/1 for 3, but the idea of getting first strike, like first strike on a 3-power creature is a big deal. And this is a good rate for that. I know it has 1 toughness, but when you have first strike, it kind of doesn't matter. Now, it doesn't necessarily slot into every white deck. If your white draft deck is a little more controlling, this guy's not going to be as good. But when you're aggressive, this guy is great. When you are consistently able to attack, this guy is going to not even trade. He's going to pick off most things in that 3 to 4 to 2 mana cost range. He's just going to kill them outright.
Yeah, he's also good at holding some of the small pieces of equipment in kind of like the red-white equipment deck.
Sure.
Throw Bonesaw this guy's way. You got 4 power first strike.
Yeah.
That gets a lot better. So he's a good target for that.
Okay, next up is Kor Sky Climber. It's a 3/2 for 3. The thing about Kor Sky Climber doesn't look that impressive on his face. His stats he's just a 3/2 for 3. That's not very good.
Yep.
And you have to activate him every turn in order to kind of unlock his flying. But the thing is that flying is so good that this guy is just worth it.
Yeah.
Last up, I think this is probably the best white common, Isolation Zone. So the universal kind of fundamental truth is that removal is great. It's just the best, and it holds true here. An important thing to note is that Isolation Zone can target your opponent's isolation zones. This is probably a little more relevant in Sealed, as well as your opponent's stasis snares, or even something like an opposing retreat, or even a dampening pulse. So with cards that are as powerful as this and have so many options to them, you just, with any removal, you don't want to play it until you absolutely have to. And I think that's it for the draft cards.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to draft this set.
So overall, just first impressions on white going into a draft. What do you think your chances are on that as a color?
So
like you said, you got a little bit of good removal, some kind of small-ish creatures that have good offensive punch.
Yeah. So seeing green as like maybe a 7 to 8% kind of pushes all the other colors up a little higher. Okay. I found in Magic Online drafts for Battle for Zendikar, I tend to value flyers a lot higher than most other drafters do. So I would be happy to draft white.
Yeah.
I can't really put a number on it now, but I would be very happy to kind of like open an isolation zone, get a few late Kor Sky Climbers, and just solidify myself in white early. I would not be sad about being in white.
Yeah. All right, so there you go. In-depth kind of peek at a few of the awesome cards we're excited about coming from Oath of the Gatewatch. You can pre-order all of these cards and more at TCGplayer.com right now. So get in there and get yourself prepared for pre-release. It's coming up. Alrighty, thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Bye.